Welcome, everyone. Dr. Anthony Criniti IV here, also known as Dr. Finance. You're on the Dr. Finance Live podcast. We got an amazing guest today, folks. I mean, like, this is off the charts for me. This is Kevin Harrington. He's one of the sharks, the original sharks from Shark Tank. This guy has done so many amazing things. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. So welcome, Kevin. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Thank you, Doc. Let's have some fun today. I know you got a great agenda, so let's hit it.
All right. So Kevin, I know we're under a time constraint, but so I want to get at least a portion of your story today. You're always welcome to come back. We could do a deep dive another time. I've had Les Brown on here over 2 hours, and Dr. Dennis Waitley almost 3 hours. So whenever you're ready, we'll do a deep dive one of these days for a couple hours or so. But today I want to at least get a nice solid story, and I got a great lineup of questions for you. Let's do a quick 30-second snapshot of your profile. You want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, then we'll get into your story for a few minutes.
Yeah. So thank you. I think I'm going to go way back. I started as a young entrepreneur back in the early 80s. So think of this. I had just ordered cable television, and I've got 30 channels in the early, this is 1982. And so, and I was a young entrepreneur, and I'm going through all 30 channels, and ESPN, 24 hours of sports, HBO, 24 hours movies, CNN, news. I get to channel 30 and it's blank. There's just these colored bars on the screen. So I called the cable company and I said, hey, I love this cable thing. I mean, I'm 24 hours of sports and news and music and movies, but there's nothing on channel 30. They said, oh, it's a new channel. It's Discovery. They don't have a budget for 24 hours. It's an 18-hour-a-day channel. So that's when the light bulb went off. I said, what can I put in that 6 hours a day to make some money? And I started programming products. And so it's Tony Little fitness products, Jack LaLanne and the Juicer, George Foreman, Billie Mays, you name it, we did it. That was the birth of the infomercial industry. And I've done over 1,000 infomercials over the years. These shows, it's just amazing how successful some of them can be. Hundreds of millions, 500 million, a billion, you never know. We've had some good success. So I owned As Seen in TV Inc. and AsSeenInTV.com. But 10 years ago, I sold all of the television assets that I was involved with because I saw the handwriting on the wall. Television viewership was dropping. Why? Well, people aren't coming home turning their TV on. They're coming home going on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. So here I was, the As Seen on TV guy, when people were going elsewhere. But I said, I can beat this game. I sold the assets at the peak, and now I've focused on the digital side of launching products, and that's my business. I'm a digital marketing entrepreneur, still use a little bit of television, but very little. And I invest in companies. And of course, you probably, as you mentioned, I got on Shark Tank and had a nice little run there. So I take pitches, I invest in businesses, I invest in people's ideas. And that's kind of my current run of where I am right now. So hope that was helpful.
Oh, that was extremely helpful. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. I want to step back and try to get a little bit of your story. So where were you originally born, and what was your childhood like?
So I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, one of 6 kids. I was the 4th. And when I had 2 older sisters, that when it came time for me to go to high school and college, my dad sat me down and he said, look, he said, Kevin, he said, your older sisters, we took care of all of their school and paid for all of that. But you're a young entrepreneur, and you got to get out and hustle. You got to go earn the money and pay for high school and college yourself. And I said, hey, my dad he owned bars. And so I said, well, great. I'll tell you what, why don't I work for you then? So I started when I was 11 years old working in my dad's restaurants, and had a lot of fun doing that. But at the end of the day, after a few years of that, I said, Dad, he was paying me $1 an hour. This was back in the 70s. So I said, Dad, I'm not getting rich. I worked 40 hours, and after taxes, I got $35.
What were you doing? Sorry to interrupt you. Were you bartending, busboying?
I was busboy, dishwashing, bar backing, all that stuff. He said, he said, Kevin, he said, you have to start your own business. Okay. So I started a driveway sealing business in Cincinnati, filling cracks and beautifying driveways. Then my freshman year going into college, I said, I need a full-time income. I started a heating and air conditioning company. I bought leads from the courthouse where they had these real estate transactions. Anyone that bought a new house within the Cincinnati area would get a phone call from my company saying, congratulations on the purchase of your new house. Don't touch that furnace until we come out and give you a safety check, and we're going to clean it absolutely free also. And everybody said, come on out, because they didn't know how to work the furnace generally. And, it was a dangerous appliance, putting out carbon monoxide gas and things like this. So the bottom line is we were getting in many doors. We built $1 million business. And unfortunately, my junior year of college, I had 25 employees doing $1 million a year in business, 6 trucks going out every day, but I was still going to school. And I'm like, wait a minute, I can't do both. So hate to admit it, but I am a college dropout. I dropped out my junior year, University of Cincinnati, but I will say I've never looked back since. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, and you never have to apologize for that. Some of the smartest people I know growing up in Philadelphia, including my own parents, my dad, he's high school graduate only, and because things are different. If you're actually applying your time properly, you can gain so much more street knowledge. Now, the combination, don't get me wrong, of education and formal education and street knowledge is a deadly effect. But sometimes you got to make the right decision. And who are you to apologize? Look what you did. You're incredible. I mean, I can't tell you how many MBA students I would have graduated when I was teaching as a professor for 10 years. And many of them didn't have a clue where they're going. And it's sad, to get a guy like yourself without an education, you did this, is like, it's way over the top. So I take my hat off for you, Kevin. Thank you. Great.
There's certainly the school of hard knocks also, right?
Yeah, exactly. What was it like growing up in Cincinnati though? Cincinnati, relatively poor area? Was it? I've been there once before.
I grew up in a decent neighborhood, went to a Catholic grade school, an all boys Catholic high school. Priests were my teachers, University of Cincinnati. But, I'll say this. I have a friend that got heavy into real estate in Cincinnati, and he's been investing for dozens of years, but his portfolio kind of goes like this, right? Now, in Florida, if you're in real estate, your portfolio goes like this. So, I mean, Cincinnati, it's Midwest. It's not a tourist market like Florida is. There's not a huge influx of people moving into the market, which that's why Florida real estate goes up, because you got more people coming here buying. It's supply and demand. And so Cincinnati's a great place to raise a family, and for me it was great place to grow up. Being one of 6 kids, we had a really close family. My mom and dad were very supporting parents, and like I said, my dad he didn't graduate from college either. He'd been in the war and flew in the Air Force, and when he came home, he said, I don't know what to do, but he said, I know a lot of people, and he got into the restaurant bar business. So it worked great for him. And for me as a young kid, it was great being in that business, seeing him shine in his way, because he was very gregarious, knew a lot of people, anytime he opened a place, it was an instant success.
That's really cool to be a son of an entrepreneur. To be a son of a successful entrepreneur. You get to learn those skill sets, which they don't teach half of them, at least in universities. They can't, because a lot of them are such hands-on learning skill sets. So that must have been really cool. Kevin, how did you? What was the event that took you out of Cincinnati though?
So I had started. I mentioned I was watching cable TV and saw this downtime. So I went to the Cincinnati cable company. It was Warner Cable back in the early 80s. And I cut a deal to start putting shows on there and programs. And we were selling we were generating leads, we were selling products. And so there's a gentleman in Philadelphia, he owned the Cable Guide magazine. And the Cable Guide was like the TV guide of cable. And he saw these infomercials I was running. And he called me and said, Kevin, he said, you may not know the Cable Guide, but I promote TV shows for Lifetime and these various cable networks, but they give me bartered airtime on their networks. And he said, I have this bank of airtime. You're buying airtime. Why don't you come up? Let's talk. Well, the Cable Guide magazine bought 50% of my company out of Philadelphia. So I moved to Philadelphia in a venture with the Cable Guide magazine, and we started running all of their media, and I started producing more shows. And that was the beginning and the birth, really, of the infomercial business as we know it today.
That is incredible. And Kevin, as you're saying that, I'm just thinking of like the coincidences between you and I being here today. And you know, so many times in my life, I learned this from Dr. Bernie Siegel, a good friend of mine. He said, there's no coincidences, Tony. Many times things happen and it's just so weird. You know, I grew up in a movie business, in a movie store. My dad actually had a franchise. He made it up to almost 20 at one time in the early 80s. And you coming to Philadelphia, he was going to all those, you know, movie conventions and stuff. And I have a feeling you guys probably crossed paths at some time.
Yeah.
And this is so ironic.
I used to go to all the shows, from NATPE to the Cannes Film Festival in Cannes, France, MIPCOM, television conferences around the world. I attended so many, you know, the cable conferences, the TV conferences, the global ones. It's a powerful industry.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that. So, yeah, I have some questions I want to ask you, and I know that you're pressed with time, so I want to make sure I cover them all. Let's start with a few other points about your story. I made some notes here. I was doing a little homework on you. I found out you were a wrestler. Were you a wrestler?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
4 years I wrestled too. That's crazy.
I wrestled 4 years varsity in Cincinnati, Ohio. 98, 105, 112, and 119 over my 4-year run from freshman to senior. And you wrestled?
Oh yeah. I started out close to your weight. I think I was 140. I ended up at a fake heavyweight. I was like 189 fighting 300-pound people because I couldn't make 189. And the next weight class was heavyweight.
Yeah, you had to wrestle those big boys. Yeah.
I lost every match.
That was a great 4-year run. And by the way, one of the toughest sports around, right? I mean, we worked out hours every single day. I was in tip top shape. Unbelievable.
That's why I wanted to ask you. It's important to spotlight that because to me, I when I see wrestlers, I already know a lot about them. Like the type of dedication, especially you said high school wrestling, just like me. So between 14 and 18 years old, here we are standing on a mat in front of thousands of people. In my case, I lost every match the first 2 years almost, and I won almost the other 2 years, almost every match. But still, like 14 years old, losing in front of thousands of people. Talk about attack to an ego, and you got to make weight. So I already know the character of yourself. It started from. Would you say wrestling really played a part in your entrepreneurship?
I think so. I mean, it's the camaraderie of being in an amazing sport, learning the coaching, and I'll never forget. We would start our day. Our school had 4 floors, and so we would start. We'd say, okay, we go to the mat, and they say, okay, let's go back to the school. We're going to go up and down. That counts 1, up 4 and down. That's 1. Let's do that 100 times and then come back. And then we're going to start practice. Okay. Like, dude, I mean, how winded would you get running up and down 4 flights 100 times? And then you got 2 hours to go from there. So trust me, I was a bulldog and tough as nails, but you had to learn too. It was a lot of learning in that business, the wrestling business, right? But because as a freshman, I didn't know anything, and I wrestled varsity my freshman year, so it was interesting. I had some pretty tough guys I wrestled. We all did.
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you for sharing that, Kevin. Appreciate that. All right. So getting to know you a little bit better, I know you're part of this entrepreneurs organization. I think I've heard this a few times, but I know that from what I heard, it's incredible. You want to tell us a little bit about that real quick?
Yeah. So back in the mid '80s, I was a young entrepreneur, and I was hanging out with a bunch of other young entrepreneurs, and Michael Dell was a young entrepreneur back then, and he had started Dell Computers out of his dorm in college. And Ted Leonsis was a young entrepreneur. Ted was the #2 guy at AOL. Wow. And Vern Harnish. We're all hanging out, and like, we've all made a lot of mistakes. And I'm like, I'm asking Dell about something and finding out, oh, this and that. And like, you know what? Why don't we should get an organization, let's form an entrepreneurial club. And we called it originally YEO, the Young Entrepreneurs Organization. Vern Harnish was actually the founder. And then he brought me in as a co-founder and a co-founding board member, along with various others, and Ted Leonce, as I mentioned, and guys like that. So we ended up building EO, and then at one point we changed the name to EO, because young entrepreneurs meant, oh, how old is that? And as we were getting older, we're like, you know what? Let's just call it EO. So EO is the world's largest entrepreneurial organization. It's in 140 countries. It's in hundreds of cities, and tens of thousands of members over the years. Just an unbelievable organization. I don't care where you go. I was in 1987, one of the co-founders, but I helped launch it in Europe and in Asia, Latin America, traveled the world, helping EO expand on a global basis. So very powerful group, and chapters in hundreds of cities around the world.
Wow, that's incredible. So there's really no competition. That's the best one if you want to join.
It's the biggest. It's the biggest. How many years is that? 30 years, I think, right? I mean, more than that. I think it's 35 years now. EO has been around. It has helped so many entrepreneurs. There's probably not a week that goes by that I don't get a phone call or an inquiry from someone on a global basis around the world in EO looking for some help or some ideas, connections, etc. Very powerful group.
Wow. I didn't know you played that significant role in that, Kevin. That's amazing, actually. So amongst so many other things we're going to talk about. All right. So Kevin, next thing I want to cover is your books. I know you have several major books, and also we're going to be co-authors together. You're a celebrity author. So this is the 13 Steps to Riches, folks. I can't.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
13 Steps to Riches. And on the back, you got Kevin Harrington's picture here with so many other amazing people, like my mentor, Sharon Lechter, and my name's somewhere at the bottom here. I'm just a little co-author, but
that's great, Tony. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, I'm really excited. That's one of the reasons I joined up. Besides Sharon Lechter being in the book, you were also at the top of that list for why I was choosing to be part of this. 13 books. I got it right. You only
it's fantastic. Yeah, great.
So that's incredible. Thank you. I'm honored to be a part of that. And what are your other books as well, Kevin?
Well, so one of my original books was called The 100 Best Spare Time Business Opportunities. And this was back in the 80s. I wrote that book, and it was kind of like, I said, you don't have to quit your job to be an entrepreneur. You can test the waters by doing some part-time businesses. Start, how about weekend wealth, right? Too many people, because I was a business broker at one point in my life, selling pizza parlors and delicatessens and flower shops and all that kind of stuff. And I found that people didn't always know what it was like being an entrepreneur. And so, I said, let's test the water. So that was one of my first books. Then I wrote a book that's called Mentor to Millions. I'm sorry. Mentor to Millions was a book about mentoring.
That's your main book, right? Mentor to Millions. That's like
Mentor to Millions was my most recent book. I've got a few of them laying around here, but if anybody goes, they could go to my website to find places to get free downloads and stuff like that. But Mentor to Millions is about how to get a good mentor in your life, how to be a mentor, how to get a good mentor, and how to experience very positive things with mentoring. And then I had another book called Act Now, How I Turn Ideas into $1 million products. And that's really what I did for many years of my life with the infomercial business. People would bring me ideas and we'd finance them. We would create and finance the manufacturing, the tooling, the inventory, the production of the infomercial. I did over 1,000 projects like that. So this is part of getting the word out. I love writing books. I've had 4 or 5 other books also, Put a Shark in Your Tank, etc. But bottom line is, I believe that creating content, writing books, this is a good way for you to become an authority in your business. And think of it this way. This is pretty cool. Take the word authority. What word does authority have in it? Has the word author, right? And you become an authority when you author a book. And so I think I've got about 8 or 9 books out over the years now, and that has helped create an authority status for me. In fact, I got offered a position on Shark Tank because Mark Burnett and team had been tracking books that I had written and wanted to meet me based on the things they heard through the written things that I had been putting out. Wow. I was creating content. I was on radio shows. I was on talk shows. I was in newspapers. I was at trade shows. Who was seeing all this? Mark Burnett. That's how he got to me, because I was building my brand. And this is something that I recommend many entrepreneurs do.
Wow. That's incredible, Kevin. And Kevin, I know that you do a lot of forwards too. Like I was just paid attention the other day. You were forwarding the book Exit Rich with Sharon Lechter, Michelle Seiler Tucker. So yes. You're always involved with these other side projects too, as forwarding or whatever, right? So
you know what? Michelle Seiler and Sharon Lechter, great people, love them both. And so there's a camaraderie in the industry. And when you meet other like-minded people, you want to help them and be part of something together. And that's what the books and the forwards and all of that has been my way to give back to the entrepreneurial community.
Thank you, Kevin. Oh, Kevin, before I forget, I also want to give a shout out to Laura Langemeier. She connected us last year on stage in Clubhouse. We did an interview for about a half hour. And also Erik Swanson, who has strengthened that connection recently. Yes. That's how we got to this podcast. So I want to give shout out. Oh, I always give respect to those who've connected me to people. So
sure, shout
out to them as well.
Nice folks at Loral and our buddy is he's so funny sometimes. The Habitude Warrior, I think, right? Yeah, he's crazy. Good man, though.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. All right, Kevin. So we got a round of about maybe 15, 20 questions. Figure about a minute each, and then I think we should make good timing. First question I have for you. I mean, this will probably take you 30 seconds or less, but what is the longest interview that you have ever conducted?
Wow. Well, I mean, there's interviews that we do like podcasts, and probably I'd say the longest podcast I've ever been on has probably been a couple of hours. And I know you do long ones like that. But I mean, I've done book interviews. I've done, also, I mean, look, probably the worst kind of interview is a legal one when a lawyer is asking you questions, maybe at a deposition or something like that. But let's not count those, okay? Because I actually, I'm 65 years old. I've been an entrepreneur for more than 40 years, and I've very, very little litigation over the years. I like to be treated. I like to treat people the way I want to be treated. So I believe a fair deal is important. And so I don't get into a lot of litigation, and that's important. So I like very positive experiences like we're doing here. But I'd say probably, it's funny because when you do podcasts like this, and some people do 20-minute podcasts, others want they want a longer experience, and I've gone on both sides. But when I promoted my book Mentor to Millions, I did over 180 podcasts.
Wow.
And so if I'm going to do 180, I can't make them 2 hours long, right? It's just, there just isn't enough time. I mean, there were days when I would literally do 8 podcasts in a day, and if they're running 45 minutes or an hour or half hour, whatever, that's a huge commitment. And so, but I believe it's important to create that content, to put it out there to the entrepreneurial community. And that's what I've been doing for many years now.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that. All right, next question in 30 seconds. Please explain what is as seen on TV brand. I was always a little confused with this because you see it everywhere, but I don't think anyone really owns it because I couldn't find a company.
The logo as seen on TV is generic. Nobody owns. I tied up the rights to all the IP though. As Seen on TV Inc., as seen on TV.com. I owned both of those. And the .com was an organic, viral place where I didn't spend one dime, but we were doing millions of dollars a month in sales. Think about that. Who owns a website that spends no money but does millions of dollars a month? It was organic. So the world of as seen on what happened is those of us that started way back, we were buying time on TV, putting products on. And then we would start saying, hey, I have a product. It's that one you've seen on TV. It was like that one as on television, as seen on TV. And so people just started using it. I tied up the assets, as seen on TV Inc., as seen on TV.com. Owned it for years, but I did sell it 10 years ago in order to move into more of a digital format. The world of television has changed, as I mentioned. It's declined. The viewership has really down in a significant fashion.
Who created the logo though? The as seen on TV.
Nobody owns the logo.
Oh,
You'll see it's done different ways. It's red, it's white, it's black, it's bordered, it's not bordered. It's, there is nobody that owns anything there other than the assets that I just mentioned, because to own an as seen on TV asset, it's got to be a .com or a trademark kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I had trademarks to.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, Kevin, we're going to move into the Shark Tank questions. So maybe 1 minute or less. So why did you want to be on Shark Tank in the first place?
Well, when I heard about it, Mark Burnett was telling me, I said, what is Shark Tank? Because I said, I knew that Mark did the Survivor show and put people in very uncomfortable positions. So I'm like, what are you going to do to people on a show called Shark Tank? Okay. And he says, I know what you're referring to, Survivor, right? I said, yeah. He says, no, it's a business show. People are going to come out, they're going to pitch you, and you decide whether you're going to invest. I said, Mark, this is what I do every day. It's easy. I go to 30 trade shows a year before COVID, right? Houseware show, hardware show, fitness show, beauty show, golf show, toy show, etc. I take pitches, I invest. It was just another extension of doing it on television. So it made total sense.
Thank you, Kevin. And Kevin, I got to put this out there, being a professor for 10 years, I came up with my 3 books over here while I was writing. This was after I was a financial planner for 10 years. 2008, you should think Shark Tank started 09. Was it 09?
Yes.
Right. So I was a professor 2008. Ever since the birth of my professorship, like all my students, all they care about is Shark Tank, Shark Tank, Shark Tank. They don't care about they would come in. I'm trying to teach them. Like I taught every subject under the sun, the doctor's degree in finance, real estate finance, entrepreneurial finance. but they, at the end of the day, they were interested in Shark Tank.
Yeah.
So meeting you today is like a 360 in my life. It's like I finally get to meet what I've really been teaching about for 10 years. They didn't care about everything else, so I had to relate it to Shark Tank. Well, on Shark Tank, did you ever see that episode? So here we go.
Yeah. They always talk about valuations and this and that. Shark Tank did a lot of good educating.
Thank you, Kevin. All right. So what is your favorite moment on Shark Tank? Maybe 30 seconds.
I had a lot of great moments. I did a bunch of deals. Some of the deals worked. One of the signature moments I say is when Barbara Corcoran and I were negotiating against each other to get an equity stake in a company called City Kitty. And her offer was better than mine. And the woman said, Kevin, are you going to make me an offer better, because Barbara's is better than yours? And I said, no. I said, my offer stands. And let me tell you why you should take my deal. She's gonna take less equity than me, but I'm going to build a much bigger business. So if you have a smaller piece of a huge pie, you're going to make a lot more money than a big piece of a small pie. And so she said, I agree. Barbara, you're out. Kevin, you're in. And boom, everybody went crazy. And they came down to me after that segment. They said, that was probably the best show that we've ever taped. And that was, whatever season we were in, segment we were in. But I was very excited about that, because I love to hear, sometimes, the heat of the moment and that negotiating, it's a lot of fun, negotiating against the other sharks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. Brilliant response. All right, Kevin, last shark question. And this is something I always wondered about. Are the sharks friends with each other in real life? I know the history, just a quick history, folks. And I found this out from Loral. Laurel Langemeier was actually on a show. I think it was called The Millionaire Mind, with Barbara Corcoran and two other, Phil Towns and someone else, David Bach, the year before Shark Tank started, right?
Yeah.
So that's the history of it, because that was like 2008. Meanwhile, you had Dragon's Den going on in Canada for about 2-3 years. And two of the people from the Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, and I think Robert, came over in 2008. I always wondered, are these all these people, are they friends in real life, or is it just like an act on TV? Like, do you guys hang out?
So yeah, I mean, in the very beginning, we were all, nobody really knew much about how it was all going to come together. Although the other, Herjavec and O'Leary had been on Dragon's Den, right? But the rest of us really didn't know what was up. But we became friendly. I'm still. I mean, my last book, Barbara Corcoran, wrote an endorsement for me, and I do similar things for many people. And I just think that the bottom line is, yeah, I mean, you'll see a little bit of this, like Barbara and O'Leary, and. But I think at the end of the day, it is a friendly environment. But I've noticed that some of the guest sharks have ruffled feathers with a few of the sharks. I don't like talking about individuals, but the other night I was watching Shark Tank, and a guest shark came on there and did a deal with Barbara, and then as the deal was getting a little tougher, pulled out and said, I don't want Barbara. I'm going direct, and I'm on my own now. And Barbara's like, oh my God, the sharks, they will battle each other, but they typically don't do those kinds of things. Right. So there's a camaraderie there for sure.
That's a brilliant response. That's what I was kind of thinking. Good point. Thank you, Kevin. All right, Kevin. So, maybe 30 seconds. What was your best infomercial host or hosts?
Best deal that we ever got involved with was Tony Little, the fitness guy with the ponytail. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the Gazelle.
Oh yeah.
Target Training was another one. We did the Ab Isolator. We did over $1 billion in sales with Tony Little. And I mean, Tony was an amazing guy, one of the greatest fitness guys in the business. And so that's my favorite. And when people say, what was your favorite? I mean, Tony Little was it. He just got married. I was at his wedding. We've been buddies for 30 plus years and partners in business for many, many years. It's been a great run.
Thank you, Kevin. Maybe 30 seconds. What is, so talking about infomercials again, what is the future of infomercials? I know you really wanted to talk about this earlier, and we're going to
I mean, look,
similar question.
I'll say this. The world of as-seen on TV, television, infomercials, it's changed. The reason being is people are now, in digital. They're now in streaming services. They're now on Facebook and Instagram. The old world of television isn't like it used to be. So 30-minute infomercials are tougher because you can't, like in the old days, yes, we did these 30-minute shows for cable channels and people would watch them. But you can't just take that now and move it over to Facebook and think, oh, is somebody going to watch a 30-minute show on Facebook? They may not. They probably won't. It's very tense and people are moving much quicker on the internet. So the infomercial business has morphed. It's changed into shorter segments and really aligning itself in a very demonstration fashion. I mean, infomercials typically have a sequencing that they follow and a flow chart. And I'll just give it to you real quick. In an infomercial, I have 3 steps. You tease by getting their attention with some kind of an attention-getting problem on the front end. You please by showing benefits and magical transformations and solutions to the problem in the please section. And then you seize. You please, you tease, please, and seize. You seize with an attention-getting offer. So that's how things work. And in this 3-step process, tease them, please them, seize them to get a good pitch. Okay, so that's kind of the format we've used in infomercials over the years.
That's incredible. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin, this is a follow-up to that, and this is something I would love to do something. We were talking about this before the show started. If anybody would know how to figure out what's going on in Clubhouse, how to monetize it, I would think it would be you and me in particular because of the things they did. I don't know if you know, but I was the longest running. I was the guy who started the longest running club on Clubhouse. Over 1 million people impacted, right? So
Wow.
what can you recreate the idea of infomercials for new technology, like a platform like Clubhouse? Because there's a lot of dead time. Not too many people got to see, because this room went for 84 days straight, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And all that dead time on Clubhouse, all I kept thinking about was what you did with infomercials, but no one's been able to capture that.
That's interesting. I think when you think of dead time, like I did, I took the dead time of the cable networks.
Yeah.
Priceline took the dead time and dead space of the hotels and the airlines, right? So that somebody should think about how do you capture the dead time of Clubhouse, right? I mean, that makes sense. And the question is, how do you do it? Is, will people, I mean, one of the questions, one of the questions is that people have when they look at infomercials, why will people pay, listen to something like that for so long, for 30 minutes, right? Well, it's important. When you follow my formula, if you tease them with an attention-getting problem, you've got their attention. They've acknowledged the problem. Now you're pleasing them with solutions and transformations. They want to see, they want to stay tuned. Now you've hooked them and they're in. And now you can then please by giving them an offer or a deal structure, making the sale. So those steps could be followed on Clubhouse, and we could probably put something together there. So to be continued, I would say, Tony, thank you very much. Great idea.
Yeah, Kevin, absolutely. This would be probably another hour discussion. So I just want to put that out there for you. I got a lot of ideas. I mean, because I went through the trenches with this. So yeah, thank you, Kevin.
Beautiful.
All right. So Kevin, where will you find the attention of people in the future? And is TV dead? Maybe 30 seconds or less.
Where will I find it?
Yeah, where's the attention of people in the future? So TV was the attention for majority.
Yeah, I mean,
people,
look,
radio,
it's social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is huge right now. I mean,
metaverse.
I mean, we're every campaign that we're involved with, we're buying social media air time on these networks, and also, I mentioned, like we use unique other things, like we use influencers because influencer marketing is huge and very, very successful. So yeah, I mean, it's think of television it was content on that television screen, but now the content is shifted to your mobile phone and your computer, and it's and different types of content. It's shorter content. It's quicker. There's lots of bites, and people are consuming lots of content on a daily basis. And this is why, like the Home Shopping Network, QVC, that's old media. It's the old way to do business. People have to go on a cable network and watch an old format like QVC or HSN. Their value has diminished tremendously over the last number of years because people are on the internet and their mobile phone, and they're not sitting there in front of their cable television watching all day like they used to. Will
TV die? Is it eventually go away?
It's just changing. Your television set is going to be a place where all your apps are for all of the services that you're going to be tuning into. So as opposed to you normally turn your TV on to watch the evening news, you're going to turn your TV on to pick what app you're going to go to for news, for entertainment, for sports, for this. It's just going to be all apps in the future. And it definitely is. I mean, it's just a lot of transitions happening in this because people are paying more money sometimes for all the different apps than they were when they had cable. So going to be a learning curve too.
Thank you, Kevin. And Kevin, just to respect your time, I do have some template questions. I just want to make sure that you're okay. Can you go for, how much time do you have left?
Well, I had an initial hard stop already, but if we get 2 more questions, let's do it.
Okay. I'll tell you what, we have these questions. I think we can get them done in like 10 seconds each. If you want to just give like 1 sentence. Okay. Because they're pretty easy. And I'll save the rest for another time. Can one book change the world? 10 seconds.
One book? Think and Grow Rich. Loved it.
Great. What role has networking played in your life?
I've been a networker all my life. It got me on the cover of magazines. It got me big deals. Networking is vital, and it's one of the main things we did with the Entrepreneurs Organization. It was a networking organization, and it went global.
Thank you. Is mentoring important, and who were some of your mentors? Maybe 10 seconds.
Mentoring is very important. I've had some great mentors, some names that wouldn't make any sense, but as high level, the one that does make sense. I got a mentor. I was mentored by Richard Branson at his island down at Necker Island on a one-on-one basis. So that was a very powerful relationship. Had a great run there.
Thank you, Kevin. And what's your favorite financial book or books? Maybe 2 or 3 tops.
I'll tell you, Tony Robbins wrote some great books. One of his first books was called Personal Power, but he also he wrote one about finance, and I got the galley of it because I gave him a quote for the book, but it was very well done. And Tony has a very creative way of doing those kinds of things. But I've got another book, and this is a finance book called Build Wealth Like a Shark. Okay. And this is one of my favorites also.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that. Do we need money to survive? Maybe 10 seconds.
You got to pay your bills. You got to have overhead, heat, utilities, way to get around. I mean, everyone can figure out a way to go get money, but yes, you've got to, money is a currency that's needed in business.
Is finance necessary for everyone? Finance, the science of finance, not finance.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because you can have money, but if you don't understand how to get more and how you got it, it's going to be gone and you'll never get it again. So you need to understand the way finance works, the way you finance a business and raise capital, et cetera. Very important.
Thank you, Kevin. 3 quick questions left, maybe 10 seconds each. How important is having a purpose in business, and what is your purpose?
My purpose is what makes it all go around. My purpose is my family. I've got two boys, a wife, great relatives and brothers and sisters and all of that. But I also have grandkids, and I wake up every day thinking, how can I help build the future to allow my kids to participate in the business that I'm in. And this is a big part of it. And it isn't all about making sure that they make a lot of money, but I want them to be empowered in a good way on a daily basis, to love what they do on a daily basis.
Thank you, Kevin. 2 questions left. Great job. What would you like to accomplish in the next 10 years or so, and why? Maybe 10 seconds. Books, movies.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've done so much that I'm pretty happy with everything. But I would say I don't need to be on any more TV shows. I've done enough of that. I would love to just see my grandkids grow up and be entrepreneurially oriented inside my son's household. That's one of my goals. It's so cool to see a 5 and a 3 and a 1-year-old just knowing that they've got tremendous potential. And I just want to, that's been a passion for me is family lately.
Thank you, Kevin. Last question. What would you like to be your legacy to this world? If you could maybe say that in 1 sentence or 2.
Well, boy, that's a good one. I would say that one of the things my wife always says is that she says, Kevin, how come you help so many people? How come you will put people before things that you shouldn't in the way of entrepreneurship? And I'm like, my legacy, I think, is as a co-founder of the world's largest entrepreneurial organization. And I do Babson College is one of the most entrepreneurial colleges in America and the world. And they did a case study on me back in 1991, and they've been teaching that ever since. And I go back there regularly. I do virtual events with the Babson folks. And I think that I just love giving entrepreneurial mentorship and wisdom. And by the way, not all about the positive stuff. Some of it is about the problems that I've been through, the ups, the downs, right? The failures. So yes, this is what I want people to know, that I was able to share all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, no matter what, so that people could learn from that. And that's what I've been here to do. And hey, for 30 plus years at Babson, they've been teaching my case study and my story. And I lived it, and now others get to live it as they get the exposure to it across the board. So Tony, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here, buddy. And I know we had a good run here with our time, but maybe we can pick one up on a future date too.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to close out and leave the floor for you if there's anything you want to say or whatnot before we conclude. Floor is yours.
I think I'm going to just finish by saying that one of the most powerful things I think entrepreneurs can do is to surround themselves with a great dream team. And this means you don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. In the old days, I thought that was important. No, I want the smartest finance guy, the smartest digital marketing guy, the smartest everybody, right? And you can only do this by bringing in these folks in an equitable fashion. So surround yourself with gurus, get some camaraderie, and you're going to be successful in building your business and being a successful entrepreneur. So thanks for having me, buddy. Look forward to hanging out with you sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. And I want to say I'm so honored to have you here, folks. You've been watching the Dr. Finance Live podcast with Kevin Harrington here. For more information, check out the podcast. We're going to broadcast it out to my 1 million+ followers. Here's the website, drfinance.info. You can find it on YouTube, every podcast directory. Also, don't forget to check out the 3 books, The Necessity of Finance, The Most Important Lessons in Economics and Finance and the Survival of the Richest, and Kevin's books as well. Kevin, where can they find you on the internet as well?
KevinHarrington.tv, my website. We got downloads available, free ones, etc. Check it out, KevinHarrington.tv. Thank you, man.
KevinHarrington.tv. Thank you, folks. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye now.